this, I'll be like, Lee, you're wasting battery, you're wasting...
If I'm sitting there, I won't be able to see you, can I?
What do you mean? On there, look.
What am I looking at?
This is Lee, this is Dave. He calls me Dave because he thinks I sound like Dave out of the royal family. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the MYH Podcast, and as usual we are not in the same location, and this one is a bit of a different episode. So this episode is a bit of a catch up with me and Lee. Obviously everybody knows Lee and we've been working together for a long time now. It's like nearly 4 years together we've been working, and a lot has happened in that time, and we thought, why don't we come together while I've got all the kit and I'm actually using the microphones, which I've not used for a long time, but I thought I'm going to make use of them and get them out and record it. So hopefully this all works and the audio works all right and everything like that. But we're just going to have a catch up, see where Lee is, see what he's up to, see how he's getting on, and vice versa really, and everything like that. And I suppose this is good for everybody who's watching this because everybody knows Lee and we go hand in hand a lot of the time we work, and skipping down the road.
But to mention a few things.
Yeah, but we thought we'd do an episode and catch up with everything, because we've been on everybody else's podcast, but we've not spoke to each other for ages, have we, on this?
I don't think you've ever had me do a podcast.
We did some stuff when your mum was ill, didn't we?
Oh yeah, do you remember that?
Well, then the audio messed up on it. Do you remember? I did like 3 podcasts in a row and the audio went funny on it.
That's right.
But so we ended up not using it, and we need to get Mark Tiff in, because I did one with Mark Tiff that day as well. I did one.
Oh,
MJ Tiff.
Lemon
Spa, yeah.
I remember that. I think that was just after my mum died, actually.
No, your mum hadn't died.
She hadn't?
No. Because I remember you talking about it, and you were saying like you were feeling you were grieving before she'd even gone.
Yeah, I think you do, because you kind of know that there's a time limit, but, you know, in that kind of... So just to give you some context, my mum had cancer. She was given 2 weeks or 2 months to live. And it was like it's the worst time ever, because you're preparing yourself for the inevitable, but you don't know when it's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So every time you go to bed, you're thinking, is it the last time that I'm going to say goodnight to her, you know? And every time we left that out of the house thinking, we're also going to come back, was she going to be alive? I remember her saying to me, right, which is really funny, that when we were kind of chatting, I mean, we was quite open about, you know, death, and we kind of, you know, accepted it. So we kind of turned a lot of it into humour. And I remember saying to her, like, you know, what is it you want? How do you see your death? And she was like, I want all my family around me. I want them all sitting at the bottom of the bed, and I want them all to do this. And I was like, love, listen, we're not the Waltons, right? But you need to give me the heads up. And it was funny because the night before she died, I was round at a friend of ours' house who had recently just lost his mum as well. And I remember going home, back to my mum's, and I think my aunt was there, and she said to me, like, why don't you go to bed? You know, your mum's all right, she's cool, like, see her in the morning. So then I got up, automatically, your brain just wakes up. I walked downstairs about 6 o'clock, and my aunt was still there. She was like, it's had a bit of a rough night. Why don't you go back to bed and I wake up if anything happens, do you know what I mean? I mean, that was kind of the normal thing over that past sort of 5 or 6 weeks. And then I remember the bedroom door flew open. It was my other aunt, and she went, you need to come downstairs now, your mum's taking the turn for the worse. You know
well,
I mean?
Was this in the morning, This
was in the morning. So I got home about 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night, and I checked on her before I went to bed, and then I woke up naturally at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
Oh, okay.
And one of my aunts went to me, she didn't have a good night, I'm just going to look after her.
Right, okay, yeah.
And then about 2 o'clock, I think it was, 2:15 on a Sunday afternoon, my other aunt came up and kind of just went, look, you need to come downstairs. Well, when I got up in the morning, there was no one in the house apart from my mum, me, and I think Mick was in the other room, and my aunt, Jean, was downstairs. When I went downstairs, my mum's house was packed. All her family was there, her friends were there. And as I walked, you have to come down the stairs, you turn left, and then you turn left again into the kitchen to go into the front room. And as I went through the kitchen, the 2 Macmillan nurses came through, and they were crying, and they just went, oh, I'm really sorry. Like, they mouthed the word, I'm really sorry. And I was like... And it still didn't register, because I'm still half asleep, and I'm kind of like, you know, what the fuck are all these people doing in the house and stuff? And I remember my mum, she had a hospital bed in her front room, and as you walked around, obviously it was the foot of the bed, then you see it. And I remember walking into the front room, and I was like, what's going on, what's happening? And no one was really giving me a clear answer, but I think I slowly caught up with myself, and I was like, oh, right, okay. And then everyone kind of gathered into the room, and she was kind of, you know, you get those moments where you have that breath where they go, And then they stopped breathing, and you're like, is that it? And then she breathed again, and we were like, for fuck's sake. So we were like, oh. And this happened for about 3 or 4 breaths, and then she stopped. Well, I was kind of trying to find a pulse, and when I'm looking at her and concentrating, I was taking my own pulse. I was going, oh, she's still alive. I can feel like the pulse. And my sister was like, it's fucking your pulse that you can feel. And then I'm trying to get around the other side of the bed, when really what I should have said was, you check her from that side. So after all the fight I was in about, she died. But it was like a comedy of errors, do you know what I mean? But she had what she asked for. Like, we was all standing around her bed, like every single one of us. And it was, it was the worst thing in the world. Like, there's that. And I remember everybody left the room, and I was just in there, and I was making myself busy around her bed, like just trying not to look and actually, realise that she had died. And as I was getting closer and closer around his bed, I wanted to touch her, but I couldn't, because I didn't know how to. I didn't know what to do. Like, it was the first time in a long time that I felt really helpless, like that I couldn't do anything to change this situation. I remember just like cleaning like medication from under her bed, and like she had this side table that had all like sweets and stuff that people had brought up and shit. Do you know what I mean? And I was kind of just moving stuff. And I remember I came from the left to the right hand side of the bed, and she was laying there, she had her mouth open still, but her hand was just laying on the bed by itself. And my mum used to wear like nails. She used to have like her nails done, and they used to be red, and she used to be kind of known for her nails, but they were just, her hands were just pale, with like these pale nails. And I remember looking at her, and I remember kind of reaching out and kind of touching her hand, and then everything just came out, man. Like, literally, like, I think decades of emotion and frustration and anger, and everything wasn't about that particular moment. I think it was just, everything just came. And I remember really sobbing to a point that I was howling. And it felt like it went on for ages, but it must have been about 10 or 15 minutes. And then I kind of got up and I kind of kissed her, I told her that I loved her, and I was good. Like, it felt like everything that I'd been carrying for a long time, I just kind of left there. And I remember walking out into the kitchen, and people were kind of like, you all right? And I'm like, I'm good, man. I was like, are you sure? Like, because the face that I'm seeing doesn't match to like what I heard. And I'm like, it was a release. Like, it was the first release that I'd had in so many years. And I remember a couple of days later, I was upstairs, because I stayed at her house, and I was in her room, sleeping in her bed. And everybody could go home, and I was kind of just trapped in this house. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, what am I going to do? Like, this woman has been the complete linchpin to our family, and now she's not there anymore. Like, what am I going to do? And then there was this overwhelming feeling of responsibility, do you know what I mean? Because I saw my sisters as young kids and not the women that they were. But they looked after me. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were like making sure, because it was over the Christmas period as well, so I wasn't home, I had no Christmas presents, I had no money, I had no nothing, because I'd literally come over for 4 weeks to go back. And people were just wrapping up random things at Christmas and giving me a Christmas present, like cooking books and stuff. And I felt really distant and what's the word you're looking for when I felt...
Disfigured?
No, just so far removed from everybody else, because everybody was with their family. Yeah. Everyone was going home to their family, and I wasn't. And I felt like this kind of poor relation in a way, and people were just kind of like, oh shit, yeah, like, I forgot Lisa, do you know what I mean, in that sense. But I think for the first time in a very long time, not being in control of something was the most difficult thing to do, because you kind of feel like it's your responsibility. And then one of the other strangest things was understanding that me and my 2 sisters had a completely different relationship with my mum. So we were sitting in a funeral parlour, we were given 3 different versions of the same woman. But all trying to say, no, she was like this. And it was like, this was my relationship with her, this is what it was like. And I think as the eldest, you see a lot more, and obviously there's, the expectations there as well. But death can destroy families, but also what it can do is it can galvanise families, do you know what I mean? And it took me and my sisters, more so me and my younger sister, a while to show up as who we are now. without the old emotions and stuff that we've had from kids, because you accumulate a lot of stuff, especially with siblings, and you never really talk about it because it's just like you end up clashing. But for us, where we are now, she died 2.5 years ago now, and me and both of my sisters have got very, very good, close relationships. That works for each of us. So, to bring it full circle, the first time I've done a podcast was when she was ill, and obviously now she did. What I've learned from that is to give myself permission to feel. Like, my emotions, man, they were so deep down that, you wouldn't have thought anything like that had happened. But now I feel it. Your emotions don't really wait for you to finish work or finish your dinner or go to a place where it's private. Like, it comes. And you know that, Like the other day when I called her up and I said, like, I had a good old cry. Do you know, it was the first time that I'd cuddled Mark and allowed him to see me like that. And it was nothing like I thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? He didn't judge me, he didn't do nothing. He was just kind of like, he didn't say anything. He just cuddled me and just went, what can I do? And I was like, you can't, just give me a cuddle. And that really changed something for us as well, because he'd lost his mum a year before mine to the same thing. And so that was nice that we managed to kind of connect again without trying to change the way that we were feeling. It was just kind of like, look, this is how you're feeling, tell me what you need. And every time I kept going past him, he was going, like, you all right? I was like, yeah, man, I'm cool. I'm all right. He's like, all right. And I could feel that things have kind of changed in that respect. And I think almost indirectly as well for him, it was like a little bit cathartic. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you were showing him you can do that as well.
Yeah.
So he might not have.
But it was years that was hard in that. I was like, I don't want this man to see me in this way. And I don't know if it's not for the fact that I didn't want him to see me that way. It's like you're pre-programmed to automatically go, no, I'm going to save this and don't let anybody else see it.
What's that? So obviously being a gay man, what's that dynamic like when you've got two male perceptions on things? Like, obviously you haven't got the male and the female perception on it, you've just got two men.
Well, I talk a lot more than Mark. Mark's kind of just find a solution, bury his head, hope he goes away. That's how he's always functioned, do you know what I mean? But he's resourceful and he does his due diligence and sort of things. But when it comes to his emotions and his feelings, he doesn't do well in comparison. But at the same time, it's trying to be comfortable in front of another man is hard, because the first thing that comes out is this bravado. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want you thinking I'm weaker than you, because then that would change the dynamics of our relationship and it'll do this and it'll do that. And it's all bollocks. It's all bollocks, because you're still dealing with two people, regardless of their sexuality, regardless of their gender. You're still dealing with two people, so you have to see that person for who they are, how they function, the way that they see the world and stuff like that. So, that's what makes relationships hard. But the thing that we have in common is we both lost our mums to cancer, and we were both mummy's boys, in that sense. And we both have that love from a woman to a woman, even though it's unconditional, and so it's hard. It's hard being in a relationship with somebody and trying to be yourself when you're trying to figure shit out, do you know what I mean? But I've had a relationship with a girl, and in that relationship, obviously I was the man, she was the woman. You just fall into these roles. But being in a relationship with a man, you're both jostling for the same position.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Do you know what I mean? You're both jostling to be
got like male bravado.
In that sense. And so, and that doesn't sit well with me. I'm always like, all I'm asking you to do is just listen or to do this. But it comes with that mask. It comes with that kind of like bravado. It really does. So we would bang heads first and then clear the air. You know what I mean? And then get to the point. So there's a lot of hurdles you jump over before you get to that point of, I just need you to cuddle me. That's all I need from you. Do you know what I mean? And so we kind of got to that point now where it's kind of like, I need you for this, I need you for this, so these are the words I'm going to use in that sense. So now I say to him, I need a cuddle. And he's like, all right, I don't need you to say nothing, I just need a cuddle. And so we've had to find that language. But yeah, it's not easy being in a relationship with another man when it it comes to your emotions, because, you know, we talk in this fucking generic way of, I can help you, but I can't. You know what I mean? And so that's why it's good to have a good support network around you. You know, people that you'll be able to kind of have those conversations with. So, I mean, I couldn't talk to Mark about everything. Like, he doesn't want to know about the work, because he's kind of like, I can't keep hearing that sort of stuff. It makes him, you know, he's not interested in my work. He's just not interested in having that conversation with me.
Yeah, no, but he set a boundary with you, and he's like,
yeah, and that works for us. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of, sometimes, you know, there's a lot of like fucking, you know, that masculinity going on, like, in that sense. So people think, listen, when you're gay, right, you're not female. You just fall in love with a man. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it is. For me, anyway. But yeah, it's a work in process. Is it process or progress?
Progress.
It's a work in progress.
It's probably a bit of both, isn't it?
It is, man.
There's a process you got to go through to get you the progress that you need.
Yeah, because you're going into a relationship with somebody based on what you think a relationship should be, which means that you feel that they should conform to that, or your expectations have got to align to that. And so you're always like this, out of sync and not singing from the same page. And so, you know, that can be difficult sometimes. Do you know what I mean? But what was it like for you, you know, in regards to, because obviously we've both lost parents.
Yeah, me and my mum died, and it was quick, wasn't it? Yeah. I was on holiday at yours, wasn't I? Mm. Well, no, we'd gone over, I had the whole of August off, and we decided to drive down to spend a week with you. And then we had a week with you, and then we went down to my Auntie Dot's in Spain. I had 2 weeks with her, and then while we were down there, Mum was like, "Oh, I don't feel very well. I'm not very well, but I'm all right." And then I went to Charles's place in Bordeaux on the way back, and we got there, and I was like, Mum had been taken to the Friarage, which is like the smaller hospital in Northallerton, and then they couldn't treat her there, so she had to go to James Cook in Middlesbrough. And I said to Mum, I was like, "Mum, do I need to come home?" Because this was like as we just got to Charles's. It was like I had 7 days at Charles's house. No, I had 6 days, because we were going to meet up, because we met up, didn't we, did we meet up in Tours? Because Ben had to go to the hospital, didn't he? So I'd said to Mum, "Do I need to come home?" She's like, no, I'm all right. You stay on holiday. But I don't know, I just sort of knew. It was more than that. And then I basically, once the holiday was over, I drove from Bordeaux, stopped in Tours for a couple of hours, had a bit of lunch with you, got to the ferry, and I drove from Bordeaux to Middlesbrough in like one big hit. And I got to the
3 kids, 2 dogs.
Yeah. Got to the hospital, and Mum was like, "Oh, I'm all right." So I stayed up there for a couple of days, probably about, I don't know, maybe a week, a little bit less than a week. And I'd been on holiday for 4 weeks. And we'd obviously budgeted to cover the money for them 4 weeks I was off, but it got to like 6 weeks. And I was like, I'm going to have to go back. I need to earn a bit of money. I need to bring the money in. So I was the only one bringing money in at the time. And then I went home. I was building a bungalow with Adam, and they all knew what was going on. I was like, "Look, I might have to go," and everything was all right for maybe 3-4 days. And then Dad just went radio silent one night. Nobody could get hold of him. He wasn't ringing anybody. He wasn't texting anybody. He wasn't updating anybody. And I finally, I think Andy got hold of him in the morning, and he messaged saying, he's got an appointment with the doctors at 11, and they'll know more, because Mum's regressed a bit and she's had to go into ICU. Because they couldn't find what was wrong with her. Like, all the tests were coming back clear, nothing wrong with her. And she was just declining constantly. And then he had this meeting. I remember I was building the gable end, or the apex, on this bungalow. I was right at the top of the scaffolding. It's not that high because it's a bungalow, but I was on the top of the scaffolding and building that, and I got a phone call off my dad saying, "Rob, you need to get up here now. Your mum's dying." So I hadn't stopped that morning. This was about 11 o'clock, and I came down off the scaffolding and I said to Adam, "I've got to go." And because it was a bungalow we're building, the people who were having it built lived next door, and she knew what was going on, and she came out with a load of sandwiches. She's like, "Look, you've not ate anything. Take this with you. You can have it on the road." Oh. So I was appreciative that I was due to go. I was due to be working away with you the week after, and I rang Sarah up and I was like, "I don't think I can make next week because I think my mum's dying." And then the kids got dropped off at the in-laws. The in-laws might have come round, picked the kids up, and then I just jumped in the car with Louise and we drove up there, and Mum died at like 6 o'clock the next morning. But my auntie made it from Spain as well.
She did?
Yeah, she managed to get from Spain to get there. So it was a lot like your mum. Everyone was around her, and those last few hours were odd because she wasn't there. Yeah. And like I'd speak to her and she'd think I was Andy. I'm like, "No, it's Rob." And she's like, "Oh." And then like I'd have to speaking to Dad and saying, "Dad, give her a hug," and all that sort of stuff. And there was bits going on there with that. And then the time seemed to take forever. And Dad had been there. In fact, Dad had been there like 2 days straight in the hospital because he went radio silent for that 24 hours. And then he had the meeting at 11 o'clock. So we just stayed instead of going back to the house and come. And then, so when I got up there, we said to him, "Look, just go home for a couple of hours, have some sleep. We're all here. If anything changes, we'll ring you. Keep your phone next to you." And he did, and he came back. And then Dot made it back. But those hours throughout the night, just every minute felt like an hour. It took forever. Yeah. And then obviously she died in the morning, and that was that. And it was from her saying she wasn't feeling very well to her actually dying was 3 weeks. So it was a fast period. And then we had to have meetings with the doctors because the doctor was like, "We can't sign a death certificate because we don't know what she's died of." She actually died on the same day as the Queen. But and they said to us, if she was the same age as the Queen, we would have put it down to old age. But she was 70. So on a whole, although she was disabled and she had bits going on throughout her life, she wasn't ill. And then she had to have a post-mortem, and then that took 17 weeks for the results to come through and all that sort of stuff. And it turns out they came back and said she had a fungal infection on her lungs, and then it was affecting. They don't know. I think it was just something that they could come up with. Basically, all her vital organs just gave up one after another. It was just their time. So, and then that went on. Then they had the funeral, and then me and you went to the funeral because we stayed in the Premier Inn, and then I went to work the next day, didn't I? But again, that's my coping strategy. That's how I cope with stuff, and I just got on with it.
I don't know about you, but when my mum died, this is me being quite candid about it now, there was a sense of freedom that come with it. Not because of the fact that she wasn't suffering anymore, but for the fact that I had no one to answer to.
All right, okay.
I think about what people will think before. So when I come up with an idea or think of anything, I think, "Oh shit, what will that person think?" That's all how I've been programmed. And I think that probably goes back to my mum as well. But and me and my sisters said the same thing, like independently towards each other. Like, "Do you feel like almost free?" And they were like, "Yeah." And we couldn't put it into words because it was my mum ruled us because of the fact that she needed to, because she didn't want us to be those kids. Yeah. But it meant then that we missed out on certain things, and we were grounded a lot and all that sort of stuff. And so it was ruled with an iron rod. And even from a distance, like even when I moved out and I moved away and stuff like that, there was still this kind of fractured relationship with my mum to a degree. But there was always this kind of like, "Oh, what's she going to say?" and flinching when she's not there and all that sort of stuff. But when she died, and I miss my mum dearly, do you know what I mean? But there's this sense of freedom. And it's almost like then, to a degree, the shackles are off because life just massively changed for me. hugely changed for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it was almost like I have a reason to live now. Like, I see how quickly her life was snatched from her. She was only 62.
Yeah, so you felt your own mortality.
I felt, I'm scared of dying. I thought I was scared of dying, and I realised I'm scared of suffering because I see how this woman suffered, and I didn't want to go through that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I die, I'd rather die just quick and not suffer, because I see the demise of a woman that was fiercely independent to the fact that she couldn't even fucking peel the lid off a yogurt pot. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could see her getting frustrated at this, and you're offering, and she's like, "Fuck off!" But you can see she's angry at herself, but she's angry at the disease. Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing that you can do about it. And so, seeing that and knowing that can happen scares the living daylights out of me. Like, it really does. If I get a twinge or a pain or ache or something in a place that she complained about before, I go into a meltdown because I'm thinking, shit, is that me getting that version of that? And, cancer's like 1 in 2. It took my aunt. So my mum died in February, then my uncle died 6 months later after that, and then my other aunt, one of my other aunts, died a year after that. So within 18 months, like three of my family members were wiped out.
Yeah.
Completely devastating, not just 1, 2, 3 families, but all of our family as a whole. And the weirdest fucked up thing about that was my aunt got buried in exactly the same place my mum did. And it was just weird going back to that same place. Yeah. And my mum was mentioned in the eulogy, and I remember sitting at the end of this bench and I was bawling my eyes out. And seeing like my cousins and knowing the pain that they're going to be in, you know what I mean? Like, and you kind of reach out and you kind of try to help. But death and that, it just destroys families, and you need to learn to live with that. And you have to allow yourself to move past that, and you have to allow yourself to live life like to the fullest. Hello, mate.
This is Meg.
Hello.
Meg, get down. It's because somebody's just whistled outside.
Are you coming to join?
Go on, get down.
Something to say? Yeah, so you do. So for me, when she died, when we had the funeral, we came to your way, didn't we? Mark and I came up with the
you
stayed
did,
up and started to go around all those sort of places. So it was nice just to be out of the environment and just breathe and take stock and try to put things into perspective and try to understand, like, okay, what does my life look like now? You know what I mean? Like, when your mama's not there anymore, you kind of like, because it's not that. It's the weirdest things is you can't call them, you can't FaceTime them, you can't share little wins with them. You can't ask for their advice, and say, look, this is the situation that I'm in. You can't just go, can I come for a mummy cuddle, or I've got to come out for lunch. All the times I would have come back to the UK for work, I would have been staying with her. Yeah. Now I just stay in her house. It looks exactly the same as it did, but I've disassociated it now. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes I walk through the door and I go, all right, Mum, and I realise that she's not there. Yeah. And so they're the things that hurt the most. There's the little things that you take for granted. And so, I have my moments. And I allow myself those moments because that's my way of remembering and understanding. But on the back of that, what I do now for work and stuff has a lot more meaning because I understand the difference that it makes. Do you know what I mean? And I think when you try to change that pain into something that's worthwhile and you understand where it comes from, you know what I mean? I think you can connect with people on a much deeper level because you feel it. That empathy really kind of radiates, you know what I mean? And so for me, when she died, from then until this point, life has been a huge adventure. Like, it really has, man. Like, so much shit has happened. And so, I wish she was here to kind of experience that, but life goes on. Yeah. Do you know, it really does.
Yeah, I think it's important. You've got to realise you've got to keep moving forward because life does go on. And that people might sit there and think, that's a bit harsh, but it's true.
It's true.
The world never stops turning.
I didn't die, she did. Do you know what I mean? But because she's not here anymore doesn't mean to say that I don't think about her. Yeah. And I remember that, and I use this quote a lot, and it's like, the grief that you have is just a love that you can't give. And so if you're grieving a lot, it means you've still got a lot of love to give to that person that's not here anymore. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I've reframed that, and that's how I sit with that. Is at the end of the days when it hurts, it's just a love that I can't give her. Yeah. And so, I'm able to kind of let that go. But it's life, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? As harsh as it may be, it's life.
Yes, and you got to keep moving forward, and there's been a lot that's happened between then and now. Like, your doing way more on your coaching stuff now?
Oh, the coaching, man. Like, if I never do anything else again, coaching will be the thing that I get there's so much pleasure out of, because there's nothing better than sitting with somebody and they get it. Because when they get it, they never forget it.
Yeah.
Right? And they've got themselves there themselves. Right? I don't do the work. I just sit there and give them that space, give them a different perspective. I help them. And the coaching helps me so much because it enables me to understand. It enables me to empathise. It enables me to heal. But more importantly, it enables me to help other people. You know what I mean? It allows me to be the voice that I never heard, man, and to be the face that I've never seen, and have that conversation without telling somebody, you know, just sitting and have a conversation like this. I know how much it impacts me. So the coaching is just, when you find something that you connect with passionately, you know. And I've connected so. I've always been good with people anyway, but I never knew that I could make a living out of it. Do you know what I mean? Just sitting having a conversation. Like, people are going to pay me to do that. Like, sweet. But then you realise when people come back and go, like, I didn't know this stuff until I sat down and spoke with you, and I've been for therapy and I've been for counselling, but your openness and your directness and your rawness helped me understand that I can do it.
Yeah.
Things can change.
Yeah.
You know, but it also gives them the tools to sustain that change as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, change isn't about just stopping something, it's about understanding why you do it in the first place. You know, what was that trigger? What was it that made you do that? You can eliminate that thing, but you'll just find something else to replace it until you understand what it is. And so that's the bit that you get. You go, oh, I understand, but by doing this is going to happen. These are the consequences, so I need to eliminate this part of it. So the coaching, I love it. Man, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. I really do. Do you know what I mean? And then...
it's now moving into yoga.
But the yoga was for me. You know, I stopped drinking it'll be 5 years this September, and I needed to find something to fill that void. I could go back to another addiction, like a harmful addiction. And I was like, it was COVID, and a friend of mine was like, oh, I've just qualified as a yoga teacher, I need some guinea pigs, do you fancy coming on it? And I was kind of like, I'll give it a go. And I think it was a combination of the way that she taught and the way that she encouraged, that I was like, I quite like this. And I just carried it on. Like, you know, it's a practice. And I just carried it on. And then about 6 months ago, I qualified as a yoga teacher. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I saw Lee. Like, I saw Lee. Like, I see who he is today and who he's become. And I was able to kind of take a step back and be very observant for that. And mate, I'm fucking proud of myself. God. I'm so proud of myself, because I fall into my little depths of despair, and, you know, I fall into my overwhelmingness, and I fall into my anxiousness and my depression and all that. But I also know that I have the ability and the capabilities to turn it around and challenge it and manage it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of how far you come, because, like, if you think back to when we very, very, very first started talking, and I was like, well, why don't you just go and do it? You're like, well, no, I can't, because I've got 10 million excuses. And I'd be like, eh. Yeah. And even now you can get a bit like that, but nowhere near as much as it, and you don't procrastinate as much, and you might try and talk yourself out of stuff, but then you'll give us a call or a message, and you'll end up doing it just like the yoga stuff.
That's the difference, though, isn't it? You know, I have somewhere to go now, I have somewhere to take it to. You know, like, you are the brother that I've always wanted, and we talk exactly the same language, and we get it. You know, so I now have an outlet, and it's not like, fucking pull your finger out. It's kind of, why? Yeah. What's your problem? And I'm like, well, I'm scared. I was like, what's going to happen? He's like, I don't know, but it's a lot of hard work, and, you know, everything's a task, and my brain can't cope, and it's overwhelming, and it's just kind of like, I just shut up and get there. Yeah. You know, and that's important to me. Like, it's really, really important to me, because, you know, I've never really had that before. You know, and so, yeah, it's I don't procrastinate as much. I still moan. Got to keep people on their toes. You know,
moan all the time. I don't like this, and why have you changed direction? Why it's too hot? Turn that off. I don't want that. Have you farted?
Yeah, but 9 times out of 10, it's true anyway, man. You know what I mean? Like, if you could smell what I could smell in here, trust me.
It's the dog, it's not me.
Yeah, the poor dog, you know what I mean? It's playing for everything. But even you, though, like, from when we first met, so we met, like, through Instagram Live, wasn't it? And I just randomly put out a post or say I was doing this series on what it's like to be a man in today's world. Does anyone want to come on? And then, like, you just, yeah, I'll come. And I was like, huh? And we just kind of gelled from there.
Pot noodle sandwiches.
Pot noodle sandwiches, man. But I've seen your progress, and I've seen, you know, the things that you've overcome. We've been mates, friends, I'd like to say. I know that for like nearly 4 years now, and we've had huge shifts in both of our lives. Not just our mum's dying, but professionally and personally, huge shifts. You know, and I see what you are doing and what you've achieved and the kind of man that you are now. You know what I mean?
I try not to think about it too much.
I'm sorry, I can't. But again, you know, you can't say what you see, and like you've done. I mean, look at this.
I was just thinking before, like when I very first started doing the podcast, I did it with my phone, and then I got that GoPro with some Christmas money, and then I got that camera second hand, and then with the money that I was earning from doing the talks, I got the sound desk and the microphones, and then somebody actually bought me, Tony from A&E, kindly bought me that other camera. I'm always grateful for all the support that Tony and the A&E team gave me, because a lot of the early episodes were at A&E, at their studio.
That's right, yeah.
And then I always had support off them. Still got support off them now. They're doing great with the True Trade app that they've got going on now, and it's been a journey. It's been a journey of relationships, and it's been a journey of friendships that I made, and it's been a journey of life lessons, and it's everything. I'm a massive believer of everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and there's going to be things that happen in your life that you could come to a crossroads and take that which way, do a turn, but I think what I have learned, I think the biggest things I've learned doing not only the work that I do now with the talks and the podcast and the bits we do together and all that sort of stuff, but all the work that I've done before, when I started doing this work in 2018, 2019, whatever it was, I think the biggest thing for me is I've learned to be kind to myself. I've learned patience.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I do believe I have. Yeah. I've learned that, like we spoke before, we can only control what you can control.
Yeah, that's true.
You can only get done in the hours what you've got. You can only get done what you can in those hours. If you can't get it done, then you can pull it to pieces and pick it to pieces if you want and find out why and all that sort of stuff. And absolutely, there's call for that all the time. But sometimes you just can't get the amount of work done that you need to get done, and do what's best for me so I can be there for other people. And people might not think that, but I do feel that's a good thing to do for themselves, because you've got to turn up for all these other people, and if you're running on fumes and not looking after yourself, like a lot of people that we speak to aren't, and everybody says to us, oh yeah, I'm all right, then bang, they've fallen off a cliff. We've both been guilty of that ourselves. It's realising to stop when you need to stop, go when you feel like you need to go, and get things done and all that sort of stuff. But listen to your body. Your body will tell you everything you need to know. And I've learned all that sort of stuff, because like when we first met, I think I was calming down to what I used to be like. Because I used to be ridiculous. Like, I just work all the time. And again, that came through all the stuff that I unpicked in therapy and childhood stuff, and didn't never want anybody to think I was lazy, and imposter syndrome that used to cripple me and all that sort of stuff. Whereas I've let go of all that now. And I'm like, just doing what I need to do for me. I'm doing the projects I want to do. I'm now trying to maneuver and move and get things to work in a certain way, like we spoke about today. But it's a journey to get to that point, and I think I'm enjoying the process of getting to whatever the end game is, because I think a lot of people focus too far on the end game and don't appreciate the process.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. You know, the process is where you get to learn about yourself. You know, the objective will never change. It's going to be there in the future. You know what I mean? That's your focus, but it's all the steps and everything that you do in between that you start to understand and become aware and, you know who you are. You know thyself by giving yourself what you need. That's the important thing that I learned, was that only I know me. People only know you what you show. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Not one person knows everything about you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we spread ourselves so thin that nobody can catch us out. Yeah. Nobody can use anything against us, and no one can kind of cross-reference, do you know what I mean? And so now I show up as me. Yeah. Everybody. Like, what you see is what you get. Yeah. Because I can't do the things that I used to do before. I can't hide anymore. I don't have the energy, and I don't want to.
Yeah, you can put that energy into something productive.
Yeah, you know, and it does. It wastes so much energy. It leaves you exhausted because you're just pretending and you're just surviving. You know, and so it does. There came a point for me where I had to start putting myself first. I had to, because I was just destroying myself. Literally destroying myself. And don't get me wrong, you know, I'm sort of like, what am I now? 8 years now. 8 years now into this new version of me, and I still get things fucking wrong. I still fuck up. I still go back to old habits, but I'm aware of them, and it's not often. It's just every now and again, stuff comes on top, and I can't manage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're using new coping strategies rather than leaning into the old ones.
I talk more now, believe it or not. You know what I mean? I talk more now because it's important.
Yeah, but like you say, you talk more, but you talk about the right stuff, don't you? Instead of just pacifying people and telling them what you think they want. I
try to find the words for the things that I found difficult rather than try to avoid them. Now I'm trying to find a word that I can communicate and deliver that to somebody now. You know, someone will go like, "You're all right," and I'm like, "I don't know, man. Things don't feel right, but I don't know what it is." Before I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm cool." Do you know what I mean? And so I do try to find a way to articulate what's going on, be it a thought or a feeling or an emotion, you know, regarding the situation or something I'm kind of confronted with. But I have a zest to understand now. Mate, I'm 50. I've got, like, if I'm lucky, another 25, 30 years on this planet, if I'm lucky. But that means I've got to look after myself now. Like, that's where the yoga comes in, and the mindfulness, and watching what I'm eating, and cutting certain things out, and staying away from certain stuff and certain fucking people. Do you know what I mean? Because I want to prolong that. I want to invest into that version of me that is coming and is being created. I can't change that shit. Like, all the other stuff's done, it's previous, it's happened. It's a lot of it's impacting me, so I need to now use that to help me to get to where I'm going to. Don't know where I'm going, but that's all part of the adventure.
Yeah, it goes back to what I said. Yeah. Enjoy the process.
Yeah. So that's all part of it. But I know that I lean more into the stuff that I get enjoyment out of, and I can then pass on. For some reason, there's this innate thing about me passing knowledge on to people. I have to break things down to the simplest form for me to understand. So I know there's millions of other people that do the same thing. So the people that I work with, I find a way to get in, to understand them, and break stuff down for them to understand and for them to go on. Because we're all just a ripple effect.
Yeah.
That's all we are, mate. You know what I mean? And, you know, the kind of work that we do as well, that galvanises a relationship. We've seen each other probably in every facet of us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think when it's not met with judgment or resistance, you're just creating that brave space to sit in and be and feel braver, to share and to talk and to understand and learn and nurture. Do you know what I mean? And so that's made me a much better man. I understand that being a man isn't one singular thing. Like, we're multifaceted. There's so much to us, and that's what we need to start bringing to the table. We need to start bringing that to the forefront. You know, if things hurt, you know, ask yourself why they hurt, how you can protect yourself. If things are good, you know, how do you pass that on? How does that radiate? How does that connect? You know, these are the things. Rather than trying to hide and suppress and front and present, you know, we should be a bit more open, a bit more loving, a bit more understanding, a bit more courteous, because we're all different, man. We all come from different walks of life, and certain things will impact us differently. So
yeah, exactly.
take the time.
And there's no one way, or there's no right way, or there's no like textbook to say, right, this is how you deal with this.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you can have a self-help book, but it ain't no good if you don't do the help yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know
exactly.
what I mean?
The work that you do now, or the work that we both do, really, it's just guiding people to do that self-help. Because people say, "Oh, it's all right for you to. You've got it all sorted." No, we haven't. We're just willing to talk about it, and we're willing to understand, and we're willing to realise that it ain't linear,
No.
and it ain't smooth. There's ups, downs, left, right, round the corner, back again. But you're willing to put the work in.
Yeah, I always was led to believe that, you go in search of happiness. I don't want that, man.
No, I think contentment.
Yeah,
well, for me, it's contentment, yeah.
Yeah, because for me, it's like knowing that I've put boundaries and barriers in and around the things that mess with my peace. Because I can't control what outside and external things, but what I can do is put good boundaries in to protect myself from that shit creeping in. And when it does, I'm able to manage it before I leave myself totally exposed. And I emotionally react from a place. And so I'm learning about me. I'm learning about how I cope and how I manage. And again, you just pass that on. You make the people, especially a lot of people that I coach and mentor, you pass that on. Why do you think you react in that certain way? Where do you think that comes from? Because people just react. Well, I don't know. It's just the way that I am. How did that become you?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's just me, innit? It's like, no, I don't know you. So tell me who you are. Explain to me. Show me. You know what I mean? And then you start to give people that opportunity to expand and a bit of context. And then they start to realize, oh, actually, I don't do that. This is just what I tell myself. Or, I can change this. Or, okay, so this behaviour comes from this place of not feeling safe or feeling vulnerable. And so, of course, you're going to react in certain ways and be prickly. So when you start to give people that information and show it to them, that's when they start to understand that change can be done. But the byproduct of that is that I have to look at life from a different perspective. Do you know what I mean? And start investing in the areas that need it. So we're in the game of, changing lives because someone done it to us. Literally. And so, I like what I do, but it does get fucking tiring sometimes.
It's tiring, it's exhausting, it's energy zapping. Some days, more than days, weeks, even when I'm doing the work, I'll be absolutely mental health out. And not all our work is all about mental health, but it evolves a lot around the core of it, doesn't it? But there's times where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go get a job on site again and go run projects again. But I'm like, no, because I'll do it for 2 weeks and I'll be like, why? And I know this is what not only me, but the pair of us are meant to do.
Yeah, definitely. Right, definitely. I will do something like this for the rest of my life. I don't know what it looks like, but what will be, will be. But you're right, though. It does. I think that's the importance of things like supervision, peer support, talking to your friends, having a coffee, going out, or taking yourself away from an environment that prevents you from thinking. It's important that you have a good, whatever that support looks like for you, around you. And remember, not one person is going to solve or have the answers for everything. So have a good circle of friends.
Yeah, so here's something for the audience. Like, we don't always ask them questions, but let us know in a comment, do you have a support network around you? Or do you have somebody that makes you accountable for yourself? Or do you just have a load of people that you might just go out and get drunk with and don't really talk about anything? And that might work for certain scenarios, but definitely you need people around you. If you want to progress yourself, whether it be in a career, relationship or life on a whole, you need people around you that are going to push you to those bits. Otherwise, you're just going to be on that same level, and there's going to be work that you have to put in for yourself, but it's like having a good meal. You might know, everybody knows what spaghetti bolognese tastes like, but you might have another friend that cooks it one way and a friend that cooks it another way, and you go, you know what, I prefer spaghetti bolognese that they do, so I'll go speak to them. But then another friend might cook burgers a bit better, so you go and speak to them. And it's that way of thinking about it. Everybody knows what it feels like and everybody knows what it looks like, but it's how it makes you feel from that individual person.
Yeah, that's the key there, mate. It's how someone makes you feel. It really does. I mean, everybody kind of feels that you need to have, if you've got a support network around you, it's got to be positive, or it's got to be a certain way or look a certain way. Going around and having a few beers with your mates and to the point that you might get drunk, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, you only start looking at that if that becomes a habit. But there's nothing wrong with going down the pub and drinking a few beers and fucking cutting loose and putting the world to rights. It doesn't have to be going to the gym or doing something positive. It's just something that alleviates and gets that shit out and stops you, being consumed by it and feeling overwhelmed by it. So there is no right or wrong way. It's what works for you, in that sense. And so I think a lot of people get that twisted. So, well, you can't go out on the people. Well, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. I used to go missing for like 3 or 4 days, not because of the fact that I was, because I was on drugs and I was drinking. I had a habit. I was an addict. But now, when I stopped taking drugs, I'd go on a piss on a Saturday night and get rid of whatever was in my head. Sometimes I just didn't want to face the world.
I think it's learning to do it in moderation and not doing it to excess.
Yeah.
If you want to do it. And I think even moderation as well, you've got to realise that, right, I've done this 3 weekends in a row now, or 3 nights in a row.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to understand why I'm choosing to do this all the time. Instead of using it as an escape, using it to deal with something.
Yeah, that's true. It is.
But can you believe we spoke for 52 minutes already?
Really?
52 minutes.
Shit. What have we done then?
Don't know, do you want to talk about anything else?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want to talk about...
Well, we'd have more time on the memory card and the camera, but somebody decided to... I'm just going to sit and reply to all the emails.
I replied to one text message, just as you asked me to sit down after being sitting on that chair over there for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
it'll take me an hour.
Oh, yeah, and then you were sat there going, I'm so much more productive when I don't have my phone next to me because I just doom scroll and I look over at you. Doom scroll.
I wasn't doom scrolling. I've written a really nice post
about 2 hours ago.
Letting go. Mate, it takes me a long time to put that shit together. Like my brain, it kind of it needs its time to decompartmentalise stuff and, and all that sort of stuff. But we're here.
This is what support looks like.
We've been trying to do this podcast for the last, 2 years? And do you know what he keeps doing? Putting me off.
Hang on.
Putting me off.
Hang on. No, you...
Even when you bring the friend and we go on tours, I've got all the podcast stuff.
I've got all the stuff here. Do you want to do it?
Get it out.
No, I don't want to. Don't want to do it tonight.
When we get back from the site, we'll do it from the site and then we'll in the van on the way back and here it comes, I'm really tired.
Shut up.
God, I could just go back and have a kip. I'm really tired and I'm like...
You're like, I need to go do a yoga. I need to stretch.
Well, I did. You know what I mean?
Can we do it next time?
I mean, look.
Yeah, you can't see that. Meg's having a good stretch. I ain't got my phone number to record Meg, so I can play it over this.
No.
So the other cameras are together. But I hope this episode's give you an insight of what our relationship looks like and the things that have been going on. And there's obviously way more stuff that's gone on in both of our lives to get us to this point. But we're there for each other. We support each other. And
I love him very, very much, but we don't do bum sex.
He keeps trying to make me, but
that's what he keeps saying. This is what he keeps saying. He keeps saying to me like, so this docking thing. Like, do you know how to dock? And you come about remember that time you told me about the I can't say this.
That bit I'll have to get edited out.
I can't say this. I'm not going to bother saying this.
I don't even know where I was up to, but I was saying that it's been an alright episode this time.
In the next episode, we're going to talk about ghost poos.
Yeah, and then bum crayons. But we can't. If people want to know more, let us know. We'll do more.
Write in and we'll do some of that sort of stuff.
Send your letters through to.
Yeah.
Gordon the Gopher.
Where's your letters? Where's your letters?
What's
that? TGR 5 though, isn't it?
Oh, was it?
Yeah. But nah, you know what? It's been a long time coming. Purely because of the fact we've been busy trying to get us in the same place, and sometimes neither one of us can really be fucking arsed.
Yeah.
If you're being honest, in that sense. We're always going to come with the honesty, and we're always going to drop a few truth bombs on you. But I think the best thing for me that's come out of this is him.
Yeah, vice versa.
You know what I mean? Like, I found somebody that is as fucked up and as warped as I am, but yet, you know, he's got this willingness to help and you know, provide a bit of space for people to kind of find themselves. You know, it looks different for everybody, but they just need that one person that's going to go, come on, mate.
So you need to go out and you need to find your lean, you need to find your rock.
Yeah. This is Lee, this is Dave.
He calls me Dave because he thinks I sound like Dave out of the royal family.
So what did you have for your tea, Dave? Well,
He's Carolina Hearn, though.
We had sausage and chips, Bob. Oh, Dave, did you have Richmond's? No, we had Tesco's only, Bob.
Tesco's are probably nicer than them.
Probably I hate Richmond sausages.
Yeah, they're horrible.
Oh, mate, people rave about them things. They are like
Meg loves them, though.
so tasteless. Look at the tongue.
I don't think any of the cameras will pick up what's like that.
Yeah, like, I've got my telephone out. Oh, yeah, she's like, okay.
You'll have to do it landscape. If you record it, then I'll put this clip on so you can see what she's doing. Schmegs. Meg. There you go. That's what
Do to me what you done to me the other day.
That's what she's been doing.
Yes. Wow. You cool with that?
Yeah. So thank you very much for making it this far in this episode. And if you do want to hear more off us, let us know. And if you have any questions for us, you can follow us on Instagram. I'll put all the stuff, it'll have popped up already, but it'll be in the description below. But let us know if you've got any questions and if you want us to do another episode like this. But other than that, thank you very much for listening and
cheers, love you, bye.
see you in the next one.